I need somebody help.
Been sold a lemon? Got an issue with a refund? Or just want to know what you're entitled to? It's time for Know Your Rights with Consumer Protection.
23 to 4, your questions are welcome. 133 882. Gary Newcombe, lovely to see you.
Great to be back, Ollie. Thanks very much.
Now, I did hear in the John Hughes rumour file this morning that the Commissioner for Consumer Protection is retiring. That's you. Is that true, Gary?
Yes, I think for once you've got a rumour right.
Slap!
So, yeah, I'm finishing up at the end of the year.
You are?
Yes, indeed.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great organisation. I'm going to be leaving it in great hands.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, congratulations. I know you've made a big impact in the role in the last 18 months or so, Gary. It's I think, your second or third stint back at Consumer Protection as well.
It is indeed. I've been at Consumer Protection all up around 26 years. So, yeah. And that's only half of the length of time I've been working. So, yeah.
Well done to you, Gary. All the best in retirement. If you've got a question for Gary Newcombe today, we do have the Commissioner for Consumer Protection in the studio, 133 882. We've just been advised as well, top of the cycle tomorrow with fuel prices. $1.90.3 per litre, the average price, going up by 22 cents per litre. We obviously have the end of the fuel excise cut now as well. Just on that number, $1.90.3, was it around about what you were expecting?
Yeah, pretty much. We've obviously the removal of the excise cut was always planned.
Yes.
We've been monitoring that along with ACCC. We're not seeing any evidence that there's to date there's been gouging on that. Unfortunate news this morning, heard that OPEC is looking at cutting oil production. Now, that was one of the big causes of the spike of petrol prices during COVID, because they kept their production down. If they reduce production, that will only put upward pressure on petrol prices. But the big thing for people, like as always is the case, shop around.
Yeah.
You know, and there are some of the petrol stations are right at the top, very expensive. So 7-Eleven, Ampol, Coles Express, Caltex, Woolworths and Ampol and BP are all up at around $1.99.9. So shop around. If you buy cheap, you can save, up to $28 on a 60-litre tank.
Yeah, you can. There's $1.59.9 tomorrow. Glen Forest Fuel in the east, $1.55.7. Costco Perth Airport, $1.58.9. United Bassendean, Ellenbrook, Mount Lawley and Aussie Park in the north. So, as you say, go to Fuel Watch, shop around. It can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Look, if price of petrol is important to you, use Fuel Watch. If it's not, go where you like. But what I say to people about fuel prices is that you can use the power of your buying dollar and avoid places that charge the highest prices. Just avoid them.
Let's go to the phones. G'day, Gary.
Hello there, Ollie.
How can Gary help you?
Yes, I've had my wheels aligned on the caravan. A guy came out and the computer aligned them, so-called aligned them. And when I got home, I've put a straight edge on the wheels, and the alignment is 35 mil out. Well, he's given the wife a story about the suspension's all going sideways and we can't do anything with it, and I've done the best I can. But it was way out. So I'm panicking, thinking I've got to get all the suspension done and the alignment done. But I've had somebody else out, and he said there's nothing wrong with it. The guy's got no idea what he's doing. And he's put a straight edge on the wheels, gone under the caravan, just turned a couple of bolts, and the wheels have aligned themselves. So this guy's charged me $300 for something he's not done right, and I've got no idea what he's doing.
Okay, Gary. Well, from another Gary, here's the advice. The reality is a person's got to do a job professionally and also not charge for work they haven't done. So the issue here is you will have a claim against that operator. You should go back to them formally, and I'll do it in writing by email, and indicate what you've advised and say that you actually will want a refund for the work that they've done. If you get nowhere with them, then you're welcome to come to Consumer Protection.
Give it a go, and good luck with that, Gary. I want to give a shout out to JB Hi-Fi. I had a mobile phone case, which I bought recently, and it wasn't particularly performing to its function. I hadn't dropped it or anything, but it was peeling. Only owned it for 2 weeks, took it in, just showed the shop assistant there what it was doing, and straight away said, yep, that shouldn't be happening. We'll swap it out.
Look, this is what we find a lot of times, and a lot of retailers do absolutely the right thing. They want to keep their customers. It's in their best interest. So one of the things we've adopted actually with our conciliation of complaints that come in is we've got a list, which I won't publicise, but of traders who really respond well to complaints. And what we do now is rather than get them involved in a formal complaint process, we refer the person straight back to their own complaint, the business's own complaint process, and they have 10 days to sort it out. And we are finding around about a 90% satisfaction rate, and that includes some of the major retailers in WA. So always say Consumer Protection is not about bashing retailers by any stretch of the imagination, and a lot of them really do the right thing. You just got to speak up.
Absolutely.
And state your rights and ask for recompense. And in that case, you should have got what you got.
And I did. I'm very happy. And, well done to JB Hi-Fi for just sorting it out. 133 882 for your questions. The rental market is certainly tightening. We're almost hitting 9-year lows. The Real Estate Institute said that vacancy rates are now at 0.8%. That is extraordinarily low. So shared tenancies or housemates is obviously becoming something that more and more people are thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, Ollie, the tenancy market is extremely tough. We see a lot of complaints and inquiries about tenancy. So it is pushing people to look at sharing accommodation and a tenancy. And we just want to alert people there's a couple of issues involved depending on how you do that. So one form is called co-tenancy, and that's where you have a group of people sharing a house. You all sign up to the one lease. So you're all on the one lease. It's pretty easy and straightforward, but the issue with that is you're all liable under that lease. So if one of your flatmates doesn't pay the rent, you are liable. You could be in breach of the tenancy agreement and you could all be kicked out, or you're going to have to stump up the difference. So you need to understand, and in that case, we can do very little to help you because it's a civil arrangement between individuals. So what we say, if you're going into that sort of agreement, make sure it's fully documented. You're very clear on who's liable for what and what's going to happen. Get all the documentation done.
Property managers erring on the side of co-tenancy agreements because it's such a tight rental market. I know it's difficult for everybody to find somewhere to live, but if it's just Gary looking at this versus, say, Ollie and Jimmy and Nick and Michelle, the property manager might say, I'm going with Gary. It's just one person I've got to deal with.
Yeah, look, there'll always be judgments. There are judgments about what those people are going to look like in the property. You know, people do make judgments about whether people are going to look after it or not. So I couldn't say for certainty, but there is a certain bias about the nature. That's why they do referee checks and other things on people. So it can be difficult. But there are plenty of occasions where, joint or co-tenancies are put in place. So, and one area actually that it often happens is student accommodation. So in this case, what usually happens is there's an individual lease with each occupant. And in that case, everybody's liable for their own bond. They have to have a separate bond, and they're also liable for their own rent. But if someone you're sharing with doesn't pay the rent, you're not liable to make up the rent.
Is that a rooming arrangement?
Yeah, that's the rooming arrangement. And it's most common in student accommodation. We get a lot of it, around the tertiary institutions, particularly Curtin, really. And the last bit is subletting.
Yeah.
So this is if you're the tenant and you want to sublease. Now, a couple of important things here. Firstly, you have to have the right to sublease under your tenancy agreement. You just don't automatically have that right. If it gives the right in the tenancy agreement, then the landlord can't unreasonably refuse you from renting it, but you must have that right in your tenancy agreement. The other thing is you then flip to becoming a landlord. So you are responsible for getting a bond from the people you sublet to. You are responsible for any of the things that the landlord would be in that case. So it can be useful. It can work out well where you've got a bigger property and you want to sublet, but the most important thing to do is ensure that you've got the right to do that and check with your own landlord before you go off subletting, because you can get into an awful lot of strife if you don't.
I'm sure. What's better, subletting or co-tenancies?
Horses for courses,
right.
I think, is the reality. I think if you're a confident tenant, you've got a good relationship with your landlord and you've got a good property, I think subletting is a reasonable way to go. It's fully documented. The Act covers it. The law covers it. We cover it. And it's slightly less complicated than if maybe you've got a large house shared by, you can be shared by 8 or so people. That gets a bit messy, particularly if something goes wrong.
Our guest this afternoon, Gary Newcombe, the Commissioner for Consumer Protection, and we're going to answer some of your questions next on 133 882. But first, here's Bruce with the latest on our roads at 14 to 4.
You're listening to Perth Live with Oliver Peterson on 882 6PR.
It is 11 to 4. We're with Gary Newcombe from Consumer Protection. Good afternoon, Matt.
Oh, good afternoon, Gary and Ollie. How are you guys?
We're good, Matt. How can Gary help you?
Well, I purchased a swimming pool, or entered into a contract to buy a swimming pool a few months ago, and I'm in the last sort of throes before we get it installed. But I'm getting cold feet. Basically, the company that I'm dealing with, I haven't been treated very well. They refuse to answer phone calls and emails. And the sort of reviews online now that I've started looking are very, very poor. And I'm just wondering if you can advise me whether I have a basis to get out of the contract at this stage, seeing as I haven't actually had anything installed or delivered.
Good question, Matt.
Matt, probably the short answer is no, not without risk of a penalty, because notwithstanding your concerns, if you've got a signed contract and agreement with them, that is a lawful obligation for you to fulfil it. Have you paid a deposit?
I have paid a deposit. It's not a huge deposit. And, based on the information and the way that I'm feeling about this company, I'd quite happily walk away from it at this stage.
Yeah. Look, two things I'd say. One is, if you haven't already, I'd go back to them and just raise the issue directly with them, saying, look, I'm not in a position to proceed. I want to cancel. They may well be prepared to do so. You may do your deposit. If, however, they want to continue to install it, you run the risk of being liable for the full contract price, not just the deposit, because, as I say, they've entered into this contract. So my advice to you is talk to them first, see if they will agree to the cancellation. As I say, you might do your deposit. If they are saying, no, we need to push on with this and we're going to charge you the lot, and you still don't want to go, then come back to Consumer Protection and we would try to conciliate that on your behalf.
Let us know how you go, Matt, and good luck with it. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, how you doing?
We're good, Andrew. Go ahead, mate.
All right, so my dad's got a new solar hot water system. It's just gone past its 5 years, so it's had its service, but it doesn't produce hot water, and their solution has been to leave the booster on, which defeats the purpose of being a hot water unit. He uses it by himself, and there's 10 days a month when he's not even here. He's away at his caravan, and it comes back and it's produced no hot water. Now, secondly, when he went and had it serviced, which apparently was a requirement, there's no signs that they changed any parts that he was charged for.
Okay. So, Andrew, I think the reality for this is we might get your contact details and I'll get someone to get in touch with you on behalf of your dad. There's a couple of things that are sort of concerning in that space. One is that things have got to continue for a reasonable lifespan. 5 years, it's pushing, but if it's been adequately serviced, it's probably they expect that it should continue to perform, that is, produce solar hot water. And the other is certainly about the issue about service. If you think the service has been undertaken and nothing's been done, that is a major issue. So we'll get your contact details and I'll ask someone to get in touch with you.
Stay there, Andrew. I'll hand you back to Nick and Michelle. Peter, good afternoon. How can Gary help you?
Oh, yeah, good afternoon, guys. More of a just beware. I mean, I thought I was pretty well travelled and could pick a scam, that sort of thing, but recently got a quote on some gutters. Ironically, 3 quotes came out of the same company. Turns out that they don't even do the work. They asked for a $2,000 deposit before they'd send someone out to measure up and order materials. Do you want me to tell you what the quote was to give you a bit of an idea?
Go for it, mate.
Yeah, so quoted me about $22,000 to do a couple of townhouses. Guy comes out to measure out, not even from the company, and says, I don't work for them, they just contract me to do it. As a matter of interest, what are you being quoted? Told him $22,000. He said, this job to me, I would get $13,000 to do this job. Ironically, we had to pay $2,000 just to get the guy to come out and have a look. Went back to him and said, don't want to play your game. give us our $2,000 back. No, our policy is you only get $1,000 back, and that took me probably 4 weeks of threatening all sorts of things to get it back. But yeah, and ironically, when I paid the deposit, it never there wasn't even any reference to the name of the company that quoted, and it was a different ABN number, different account name. I don't know how much of this is going on, but geez, I tell you, it's dodgy.
Yeah, it sounds a bit dodgy there. Is Peter right to raise the alarm on that one, Gary?
Absolutely. And Peter, unfortunately, this model is not that uncommon. And we're seeing a range of areas where people operate sort of as an accumulator. They purport to be, in this case, someone who might do gutters or might do electrical work or might do whatever else. Sometimes they purport to be a national company. And the reality is all they do is subcontract it themselves out to somebody else, which explains, in this case, the different ABNs and so on. So, and also, obviously, you're right. I mean, we certainly don't recommend people paying large deposits up front. Again, actually be interested, I'm not sure, you didn't proceed with this, I take it?
Not with the original the company that quoted it, but the guy who was kind enough and decent enough to tell us, what the whole scam was about.
Yep.
Will now do the job, Yeah.
Okay. So, Andrew, I'm going to ask for your contact details. The reason is I'd like to get someone to ask you off air who the original company was you dealt with, because that's useful information for us.
All right.
So if you're okay, we might follow you up just to get the details on that company.
All right, stay there and we'll get some details from you off air. Gary, the clock is going to bed. It's lovely to see you. We might see you again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you never know. Trish is off being orange girl for hubby, who's playing veterans hockey, so who knows.
Good luck to Trish and her hubby as well. It is 4-4, Trish and her hubby as well. It is 4-4, Trish and her hubby as well.